Okay, we made it to the last part of our lesson. First part was manageable, second part, so long, so much information, and now we're going to hopefully end on our shortest video and our hopefully easiest part of this lesson. Now that we've gone through and done a residual plot by hand, I think that hopefully you are thinking the same as me in that I don't want to have to make residual plots by hand. The amount of steps that goes into it, and then the plotting it just takes so long that it's not really something that is a viable option for your AP exam. It would take you way too long to actually do a residual plot by hand. So, as with most things in this course, we can use our calculator to graph a residual plot. I would like to start with this data. So hopefully this data is still in your calculator. We'll go to the next page. And I'm gonna walk you through the steps with the body weight, backpack weight data, and then I'll walk you through one more time for the percent attendance and test score data. Okay, hopefully the last regression that you ran in your calculator, and it should have been, is list 1 and list 2. To get a residual plot, you want to go to second y equals. You want to have only one plot on. So I'm going to turn this one off and start from fresh on a different one. So, okay. I'm going to turn this plot on. Then it says your X list should be your explanatory variable. We're still on a scatter plot, so you want to keep option 1, and you see that here. You want to change your X list to list 1. If you did the same as me, your body weight should be in list 1. And now here's what's really important. You want to change your Y list to the residuals, because that's what our graph is. For a residual plot, your X is the same X that you have for your scatter plot, but your Y is now your residuals. To do that, you have to hit these buttons that are listed on your paper. You want to hit blue button, and then your stat button. Depending on what model of calculator you have, your residuals will be in list 7 or list 8. So each time you run the regression function, so each time we get in and press stat calc 8, it calculates your regression line, but then it also calculates all of the residuals and puts it in a list for you. So if you wanted to make the residual plot, you don't have to do any of the steps that we did. So remember, what we did when we first started this was our original data X, our original data Y. These are our Y hats. These are our residuals. Your calculator automatically does that for you without typing all of this in. If you go up here to your list, though, notice that you can't see the residual list. It's not in one of your lists that you have a default list here. Anyways, back to business. We have our X value, our residuals, because our calculator puts the residuals in a list for us without even asking to do it. Then from here we press graph. If you don't see any points, press zoom, zoom stat. So zoom 9. And now let's verify that this scatter plot is the same as I need to stop saying scatter plot, that this residual plot is the same as the one we graphed, and it's very close. You can see the funnel pattern or the megaphone pattern much more clearly in your calculator. At least that's my opinion. Okay, so we practiced with this. Now let's start from scratch. We're on this data now. The question is a linear model appropriate for our attendance and end-of-year test score data? I am going to go into my stat, my one to edit my lists. I'm going to see if I have this in any of my lists. I don't. I have a bunch of calculators though, so I'm going to check all my calculators that I have by me. While I'm doing this, hopefully you guys are entering in the data. I'm just going to put mine in list 4 and list 5. If yours are already in, then hopefully you're just fast forwarding through me right now. Okay. Now we're going to go to our stat plot, option 2. My X values for me are now in list 3. So usually when I enter in data, I usually try to be pretty careful about where I put my values. So this now needs to be list 3. I hit graph because my residuals are already there. And I see nothing. So I do zoom, zoom stat, and I have the same residual plot as last time. I don't have a new residual plot, and for some of you guys, you're just going to get an error. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to make sure that my list, so yeah, I changed my list to 3, and oh, I need to be in list 4. See why I need to always write these down. Okay, I go back to list 5, or sorry, I go back to the graph. And now I have that there's a dimension mismatch. What it means when you get a dimension mismatch is that your lists are not the same length. Your lists don't have the same number of observations. Hopefully, since I started this, you guys have been screaming at me or annoyed with me thinking, this dum-dum, and you've known the whole time what I'm doing wrong. What I'm doing wrong, and I'm doing it wrong on purpose, is this first step. Always compute the regression line first. The biggest mistake that I've seen in all of the years that I've been teaching AP stats when it comes to using your calculator to make a residual plot is that once you have your data entered, you have to run the regression. You have to do stat calc 8. Remember, your calculator is going to make your list of residuals, but it only makes that list of residuals when you run this function, stat calc 8. So I now need to go in and do that. I'm going to clear out of this. I'm going to hit stat calc 8, and now I need to change these lists to 3, oh, just kidding, to 4 and 5. As soon as I hit that button, I not only have my regression line, but I also have my residuals now in a different list. My calculator automatically fills my residual list with the data, with this data. Now I'm going to go to second y equals and follow the same steps. I can go to option 2 this should be list 4. I can hit graph. I don't see anything, so I need to hit zoom, zoom stat, and this is my residual plot. You do not have to write the residual plot right here. You are just writing the response. Is a linear model appropriate for this data? So what do you guys think? Is a linear model appropriate? No! A linear model is not appropriate. Why? Because there is an obvious curved pattern in our residual plot. So a linear model is not appropriate for this data because it did not capture the relationship. We still have this curved relationship to worry about. I'm just going to use my sentence frames up here to model or to formulate my response. So my response is a linear model is not appropriate for this data because there is an obvious curved pattern in the residual, make sure you say residual plot. Make sure you use residual and not scatter. I have a really bad habit of interchanging those two words, and I need to work on that in a serious way. So no, because there is an obvious curve pattern in the residual plot. Biggest takeaways. Let's hit them real quick and then let you go to do your quiz question for this and your can you do for this. Always compute your regression line first when you are finding a residual plot. You will not have the residuals you need unless you run the regression. Then the one other thing that I want to note before I let you go is it's easy to state what kind of pattern you have when it's curved. When you have a megaphone pattern or a funnel pattern, it doesn't sound as awesome for you to say, there's an obvious megaphone pattern in the data. So usually when I have a megaphone pattern where the residuals are getting larger as X increases, I just say there's an obvious pattern in the data set, and then on the scatter plot, if it's provided, I draw the funnel. I think you could say funnel or megaphone. I don't know that that's like a commonly accepted description. I think the accurate description is there is an obvious pattern in the scatter plot as X increases. The residuals are increasing on both sides of the zero line. So I guess you would have to say as X increases, the absolute value of the residuals is also, see what I'm saying? So I just say there's an obvious pattern. If you want to say megaphone pattern, great. If you want to say funnel pattern, that's fine too. If it's a curved pattern, I say curved pattern. If it's not, like I said, I just say there's an obvious pattern on the residual plot. So that's it. That's it for this lesson. Start to finish, it was about one class period, but man, that middle lesson was a doozy. I'm still feeling bad about it. This video hopefully is much shorter and more manageable for you. Like I said, I would like for you to go into you're in Canvas. If you're watching this, then you're already there. So go down below, do the one problem that's there, and then move on to your can you do. If you have any questions, as usual, let me know. Please let me know. Otherwise, love you. Well, not otherwise. I love you if you have questions or not, but see you.